My parents took my entire college fund to pay for my sister's extravagant wedding. Now they're begging me for financial help while she posts vacation photos from the Maldives. I stared at the desperate text message on my phone and wondered how I'd become the family ATM after being the forgotten child for 28 years. I'm Lucas Bennett, the eldest and perpetually overlooked son in a family where my sister, Sophia, has always worn the invisible crown. Growing up in suburban Ohio, I learned early that being the responsible one meant being taken for granted, while Sophia's every whim was treated like a royal decree. The first memory I have of this uneven treatment was my 10th birthday. I'd asked for a new bike, nothing fancy, just something to replace the hand-me-down I'd outgrown. My parents gave me a used model from a garage sale, explaining that money was tight. 2 months later, Sophia turned 7 and received a brand new bike with all the accessories because, as Mom put it, she's been through so much with her allergies this year. My allergies were apparently not worthy of mention. This pattern continued throughout our childhood. When I earned straight A's, my report card would be glanced at and placed on the refrigerator with a casual, "Good job, Lucas." When Sophia brought home B's and C's, there would be celebrations, ice cream, and praise about how hard she must have worked. "Sophia just needs more encouragement," Mom would explain when I questioned the disparity. "You're naturally gifted, so you don't need as much praise." By high school, I'd accepted my place in the family hierarchy. I worked part-time jobs, saved money, joined clubs, and maintained excellent grades, all while watching Sophia receive new clothes and a car on her 16th birthday. I had shared our parents' old sedan and constant attention for her minor accomplishments. "Lucas, you need to help your sister with her college applications," Dad instructed during my senior year of college. I was drowning in my own coursework, working 20 hours a week at the campus bookstore, and barely sleeping. "I have 3 papers due this week," I protested. "Your sister's future is at stake," Mom chimed in from the background. "You know how she struggles with essays. Just help her this once." This once became a regular occurrence. I edited Sophia's papers throughout her college years while working to pay off my own student loans. My parents had promised me a college fund. I'd seen the statements during high school showing nearly $40,000 saved for my education. But when I was accepted to State University, they sat me down for the talk. "We've had to use your college fund for some unexpected expenses," Dad explained, not quite meeting my eyes. "But you're smart. You can get scholarships and loans." I later discovered the unexpected expenses included a kitchen remodel and Sophia's senior trip to Europe with her friends. When I confronted them, Mom sighed dramatically. "Lucas, you've always been so independent. We knew you'd figure it out. Sophia needs more support." I did figure it out, through scholarships, loans, and working 30 hours a week while maintaining a full course load. I graduated with $32,000 in student debt but a promising job in marketing. Meanwhile, Sophia changed majors 3 times, took 5 years to graduate with a communications degree, and had her entire education paid for. "That's what parents do," Mom said when I mentioned the disparity. "We help our children when they need it." Apparently, I wasn't included in the definition of children. After college, I moved to Chicago and built a life for myself. I kept in touch with my family through obligatory holiday visits and occasional phone calls. I dated, made friends, advanced in my career, and tried to ignore the constant updates about Sophia's life, her promotions gained through connections my parents had made, her relationship with Ethan, the son of my father's golf buddy, and her general status as the family's shining star. Then came the wedding. "Lucas, we need to discuss Sophia's wedding," Mom announced during a Sunday phone call 6 months ago. "It's going to be the event of the season." "That's great," I replied, only half listening as I reviewed work documents. "When is it?" "June 15th. Mark your calendar." And she hesitated. "We might need some help with the expenses." I sat up straighter. "What kind of help?" "Well, your father and I have put aside quite a bit, but Sophia has her heart set on the Lakeside Gardens venue, and the deposit alone is $15,000. "That's a lot for a venue," I said carefully. "It's her special day, Lucas. Every girl dreams of her perfect wedding." I took a deep breath. "How much are you asking me to contribute?" The answer nearly made me drop the phone. $10,000. "Mom, that's more than I make in 3 months after taxes and rent." I protested. "But you've been so successful," she countered. "And you don't have any major expenses like Sophia does. She and Ethan are saving for a house." "I have student loans," I reminded her. "And I'm saving for my own future." The guilt trip began immediately. "After everything we've done for you, Lucas, we raised you, put a roof over your head, fed you. Is it too much to ask that you help make your sister's dreams come true?" I wanted to scream that they had done the bare minimum required by law as parents while giving Sophia everything, including my college fund. Instead, I said I'd think about it and ended the call. Over the next few weeks, the pressure intensified. Dad called to reason with me. Sophia texted about how she was that I wasn't excited about her wedding. Extended family members reached out to mention how generous I'd always been and how selfish I suddenly seemed. I eventually agreed to contribute $3,000, a compromise that pleased no one but was all I could afford without derailing my own financial plans. The disappointment from my family was palpable. "I guess that's better than nothing," Mom sniffed. "Though I don't know how we'll afford the flowers Sophia wants." As the wedding approached, I noticed a strange pattern. Despite my financial contribution, I wasn't included in any of the planning discussions. When I asked about being a groomsman, Sophia laughed. "Oh, Ethan already has his college friends and fraternity brothers. There really isn't room for you." I tried to ignore the sting. "What about other ways I could help? I'm pretty good at organizing." "We've got it covered," she said dismissively. "Just show up on time and try to look presentable." The weekend of the wedding arrived, and I flew back to Ohio, checking into the hotel where a block of rooms had been reserved for guests. The rehearsal dinner was the first event held at an upscale restaurant downtown. When I arrived, I discovered I wasn't seated at the family table but instead placed with distant cousins I barely knew. "There must be some mistake," I said to my mother, pulling her aside. "No mistake," she replied, straightening her expensive new dress. "We had to prioritize Ethan's immediate family and the wedding party. You understand?" I didn't understand, but I sat through the dinner, watching my parents beam with pride as they introduced Sophia and Ethan to everyone as our beautiful daughter and her wonderful fiancé. No one mentioned me, the son who had contributed to this extravaganza despite his own financial constraints. The day of the wedding was even worse. I arrived at the venue, which was indeed spectacular with its lakeside views and marble columns, and found that I wasn't even mentioned in the program. Under family of the bride, my parents' names appeared, followed by and family. I was reduced to an anonymous afterthought. During the ceremony, I sat in the general seating area, not with my parents in the reserved family section. At the reception, I discovered I was seated at a table near the coat check, far from the main celebration, with people I'd never met. "Are you a friend of the bride or groom?" an elderly woman asked me. "I'm the bride's brother," I replied. Her eyebrows shot up. "Oh, I didn't realize Sophia had a brother." That comment hit me harder than I expected. Had my sister erased me from her narrative so completely that her future in-laws didn't even know I existed? I excused myself and headed to the bar, where I ordered a whiskey neat. As I sipped my drink, I watched my family across the room, laughing, dancing, accepting congratulations. I had contributed financially to this celebration, yet I was treated like an unwelcome stranger. "Quite the affair, isn't it?" a voice beside me said. I turned to see an elegant older woman in a navy blue dress, her silver hair perfectly styled. Something about her seemed familiar. "Yes, very elaborate," I agreed. "I'm Mary Hamilton," she said, extending her hand. "Ethan's mother." I nearly choked on my drink. "Lucas Bennett," I replied, shaking her hand. "Sophia's brother." Her expression shifted slightly. "Brother? How interesting." Sophia mentioned only her parents when we discussed family. The sting of those words pushed me over the edge. I'd been teetering on for years. "That sounds about right," I said, unable to keep the bitterness from my voice. "I've never really counted in this family." Mary studied me with shrewd eyes. "Care to elaborate?" Perhaps it was the whiskey or the culmination of years of being overlooked, but I found myself telling Mary everything: the childhood disparities, the stolen college fund, my contribution to this very wedding despite being treated like an unwanted acquaintance. The final insult was finding out they seated me by the coat check, I concluded. I donated $3,000 to this wedding, and they couldn't even put me at a decent table. Mary's expression had grown increasingly troubled as I spoke. "That's quite disturbing, Lucas, and not at all the impression Sophia has given us of her family dynamics. What has she told you?" I asked, curious despite myself. Mary hesitated, then seemed to make a decision. "She's portrayed herself as the supportive daughter who's had to care for aging parents while her selfish older brother abandoned the family for the big city, never looking back or offering help." I nearly dropped my glass. "What? I send money home regularly when they ask. I've never refused to help. I just can't always give as much as they want." "That's not the story we've heard," Mary said, her lips thinning. "Ethan and I were led to believe you were essentially estranged from the family due to your self-centered nature. The rage that had been building for years to explode. Did she also tell you what she thinks of you?" I asked, the words escaping before I could stop them. Mary's eyebrows rose. "Excuse me?" I shouldn't have continued, but 28 years of suppressed resentment had finally found an outlet. "Sophia has been complaining about you since she started dating Ethan. She was worried you'd wear something embarrassingly outdated to the wedding and ruin her photos." Mary's face froze. "I beg your pardon?" "She also mentioned being concerned about your speech tonight, afraid you'd say something inappropriate and embarrass her in front of her friends." Mary's knuckles whitened around her champagne flute. "I see. I'm sorry," I said, suddenly realizing I might have gone too far. "I shouldn't have." "No," Mary interrupted, her voice steely. "I appreciate your honesty, Lucas. I've had suspicions about your sister's character for some time. Ethan is blinded by love, but mothers see things others don't. She placed her empty glass on the bar and straightened her shoulders. "If you'll excuse me, I believe I need to have a conversation with my new daughter-in-law." I watched as Mary made her way across the room, her posture rigid with purpose. She approached Sophia, who was surrounded by bridesmaids, and said something that made my sister's smile falter. They moved to a quieter corner, where their conversation quickly became animated. As I watched them, a plan began to form in my mind. For years, I'd been the beautiful son, the reliable brother, the family ATM. I'd swallowed my resentment and played my assigned role. But no more. If my family wanted to treat me like a stranger, then I would give them a show they'd never forget. I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app. I'd prepared a wedding gift for Sophia, another $1,000 I could barely afford, a final piece offering to maintain the illusion of family harmony. With a few taps, I canceled the transfer. Then I scrolled through my gallery until I found what I was looking for, screenshots of text conversations with Sophia over the years. Messages where she'd mocked not just Mary but Ethan's entire family, where she complained about how boring Ethan was and how she was settling for him because he had family money, where she'd admitted to faking interest in his hobbies just to keep him on the hook. I'd saved these messages out of a vague sense that I might need them someday. That day had arrived. I ordered another whiskey and watched as Mary's conversation with Sophia grew more heated. My mother had joined them now, placing a protective arm around Sophia's shoulders. Ethan hovered nearby, looking confused and concerned. Perfect timing, I thought. I approached the DJ's booth and slipped him a $100 bill. "I'd like to make a special toast to my sister," I said. "Can I borrow the microphone in about 5 minutes?" The DJ nodded, pocketing the money. "Sure thing, man. Just give me a signal when you're ready." I moved to a position where I could observe the growing tension between Mary and Sophia. My mother was now actively arguing with Mary, while Sophia had adopted her familiar victim pose, shoulders hunched, eyes wide and tearful, lower lip trembling. Ethan looked increasingly uncomfortable, caught between his new wife and his mother. When the current song ended, I caught the DJ's eye and nodded. He announced, "And now a special toast from the bride's brother, Lucas." All eyes turned to me as I took the microphone. Sophia's face registered shock, then alarm. My mother looked furious. My father, who had been chatting with Ethan's father across the room, turned with a confused expression. "Good evening, everyone," I began, my voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through me. "For those who don't know me, which seems to be most of you, I'm Lucas Bennett, Sophia's older brother." A murmur rippled through the crowd. I could see Ethan's relatives exchanging glances, clearly surprised by my existence. "I wanted to take this opportunity to share some insights about my sister that you might not be aware of," I continued. "Sophia has always been the star of our family, the golden child who could do no wrong." My mother started moving toward me, her face a mask. But my father caught her arm, holding her back. "What many of you don't know is that Sophia's perfect wedding was partially funded by me, the brother she conveniently forgot to mention to her new in-laws. The brother whose college fund was taken to pay for her European vacation. The brother who has been sending money home for years despite being told I was selfish and abandoning the family." Gasps and whispers spread through the reception hall. Sophia's face had gone from alarm to horror. "But don't take my word for it," I said, pulling out my phone. "I think Sophia's own words paint a clearer picture." I began reading from the screenshots, my voice carrying clearly through the speakers. "God, Ethan's mother is such a pathetic suburban housewife. I'm going to have to Photoshop her out of the wedding photos if she wears another one of her tacky pantsuits." Mary's face hardened further. Ethan's expression shifted from confusion to disbelief. "Ethan is so boring sometimes I want to scream, but his family has money, so I guess I can put up with the golf stories." Ethan's father straightened in his seat, his jovial expression vanishing. "I told Ethan I love hiking, but honestly, who wants to walk uphill for fun? The things I do to keep him thinking we have things in common." With each revelation, the atmosphere in the room grew more tense. Sophia had abandoned her victim pose and was now frantically trying to reach me, but several tables and guests stood between us. "My brother Lucas is sending money again, but only $500 this time. What a cheapskate. He makes good money in Chicago, but he's always been selfish." I looked directly at my sister as I delivered the final. "Mom and Dad are pressuring Ethan to buy a house in their neighborhood. They have no idea we're planning to move to California after the wedding. Let them figure it out when we're gone." Ethan's head snapped toward Sophia, his face a study in betrayal. This was news to him, clearly. "So congratulations, Ethan," I said, raising my glass. "You've married into a family of manipulators and liars. Sophia has never loved you for who you are, only for what you and your family could give her. Just as my parents have never loved me for who I am, only for what I could provide." I set the microphone down on the nearest table and walked toward the exit. The silence in the room was so complete you could hear the ice clinking in glasses. As I reached the door, chaos erupted behind me. Sophia was screaming something about context and private conversations. My mother was trying to grab the microphone, presumably to do damage control. Ethan's father had risen to his feet, his face flushed with anger. Mary stood with her arms crossed, vindicated but furious. Most telling of all was Ethan's expression, the dawning realization that the woman he just married was not who he thought she was. I stepped outside into the warm June evening, loosened my tie, and took a deep breath. For the first time in 28 years, I felt free. I'd burned bridges, yes, but they were bridges to nowhere, connections that had only drained me, never nourished me. My phone exploded with notifications as I walked to my rental car. I silenced it without looking and drove back to my hotel. I packed my bags, checked out, and headed to the airport. I booked the first available flight back to Chicago, not caring about the cost. In the airport lounge, I finally checked my phone. The messages were exactly what I'd expected. From Mom, "How dare you ruin your sister's wedding? You are no longer our son." From Sophia, "I will never forgive you for this. You've destroyed my life. I hate you." From Dad, "Your mother is hysterical. Ethan's family is to annul the marriage. What were you thinking?" There were also messages from extended family members, some expressing shock, others condemning my actions. None of them had ever spoken up when I was being exploited for years. I deleted them all and blocked their numbers one by one. Then I did something I should have done years ago. I posted on social media, "After years of financial exploitation and emotional manipulation by my family, I finally ties to anyone who heard their version of events." I paid for part of my sister's wedding only to be seated by the coat check and erased from the family narrative. My college fund was taken for her European vacation. I've been sending money home for years while being called selfish. No more. Sometimes family is just people you're related to, not people who love you. I attached screenshots of some of the more damning text conversations, not all of them, just enough to make it clear I wasn't making this up. By the time my flight landed in Chicago, my post had hundreds of comments and shares. Former classmates, distant relatives, and even some of my parents' friends expressed shock and support. A few of my cousins messaged privately to share similar experiences with my mother and Sophia. The fallout was swift and devastating for them, not me. Ethan's family demanded an annulment, humiliated by the public revelations about Sophia's true feelings toward them. According to a cousin who remained in contact with me, Ethan moved back in with his parents while his lawyers worked to protect his assets. My parents faced social ostracism in their community. Their country club friends, who had attended the wedding and witnessed my revelations, distanced themselves. My father's business partners began questioning his integrity. My mother was asked to step down from her cherished position on the hospital charity board. Sophia lost not only her husband but also her job. Apparently, her boss was friends with Mary's sister and decided Sophia wasn't a good fit for the company culture. After hearing about the wedding disaster, my parents' house, which they had remortgaged to pay for the wedding, went into foreclosure 6 months later. They were forced to downsize to a small condo in a less prestigious neighborhood. Through it all, they maintained that I was the villain, the ungrateful son who had destroyed their family out of jealousy and spite. They told anyone who would listen that I had misrepresented private conversations and taken things out of context. Few believed them, especially after more relatives came forward with their own stories of manipulation and favoritism. A year after the wedding, I received a letter from my father. Unlike my mother and Sophia, who continued to send hateful messages whenever they managed to get a new phone number I hadn't blocked, my father had maintained a dignified silence. The letter was short: "Lucas, I won't ask for your forgiveness because I don't deserve it. What I will say is that I failed you as a father. I allowed your mother and sister to dictate our family dynamics, and I looked the other way when you were treated unfairly. I've lost everything. My business is failing. Your mother is bitter and angry all the time. And Sophia blames everyone but herself for her situation. I hope you're finding peace and happiness in your life. I won't contact you again unless you wish it." I read the letter twice, then filed it away without responding. Perhaps someday I would reach out to him, but not yet. The wounds were still too fresh, the betrayal too deep. Meanwhile, my life in Chicago flourished. Freed from the financial burden of supporting my family, I was able to pay off my student loans ahead of schedule. I received a promotion at work, partly due to the extra time and energy I could now devote to my career instead of managing family drama. I made new friends, genuine friends who valued me for who I was, not what I could provide. I started dating a woman named Rachel, who came from a healthy, loving family and helped me understand what normal family relationships look like. 2 years after the wedding, I received a text from an unknown number. "It's Sophia. Please don't block this number. I need your help. I have nowhere else to turn." I stared at the message for a long time before responding. "What do you need?" "Money for rent. I'm about to be evicted. Mom and Dad can't help anymore. I'll pay you back, I promise." I laughed out loud at the audacity. What happened to the settlement from Ethan? His lawyers were better than mine. I got almost nothing. "Please, Lucas. I'm desperate." I thought about all the times I'd been desperate, working multiple jobs to pay for college because my fund had been taken, eating ramen for weeks to send money home when they claimed they couldn't make the mortgage payment, skipping needed dental work to help pay for Sophia's car repairs. "No," I replied simply. "You're still punishing me for the past. That's really petty, Lucas. We're family. We're related by I corrected. That doesn't make us family. Family doesn't steal from each other. Family doesn't lie about each other. Family doesn't treat someone like an outsider until they need money. I've changed, she insisted. The last 2 years have been really hard. I'm glad to hear that, I replied. Growth often comes from difficulty, but my answer is still no. You're enjoying this, aren't you? She accused. Seeing me suffer, that's really sick, Lucas. I don't enjoy your suffering, I told her honestly. But I'm not responsible for it either. Your choices led you here, not mine. Fine, she snapped. I'll remember this when mom and dad need nursing home care. Don't expect me to help then, I laughed again. I've been planning to care for myself since I was 18 and discovered my college fund was gone. I suggest you start doing the same. I blocked her number and went back to making dinner with Rachel, who had moved in with me 6 months earlier. As I chopped vegetables, I felt a strange sense of peace. The old Lucas would have felt guilty, would have sent money despite knowing it would never be repaid, would have accepted the role of family savior once again. But I wasn't that person anymore. I had learned the hardest lesson of all. Sometimes loving yourself means walking away from people who don't. 3 years after the wedding, I proposed to Rachel during a trip to Lake Michigan, the same spot where I had first realized I could build a life without my family. She said yes, and we began planning a small, intimate ceremony with only those who truly supported and loved us. A week after our engagement, I received a thick envelope in the mail, a formal invitation to Sophia's second wedding. She was marrying a wealthy real estate developer 20 years her senior. The invitation included a handwritten note, I hope we can put the past behind us. Family should be together for important moments. Along with the invitation was a registry list for gifts, with most items costing over $500. I showed the invitation to Rachel, who knew my family history in detail. She raised her eyebrows in disbelief. Is she serious? Completely, I confirmed. This is how they operate. They pretend the past never happened when they want something. What are you going to do? I took the invitation, registry list, and note and dropped them into the shredder without hesitation. Moving forward with the people who actually care about me. Rachel smiled and kissed me. Good answer. My wedding to Rachel was everything I'd never experienced in my family, genuine, warm, supportive. Her parents welcomed me as a son, not an obligation. Her siblings treated me with respect and affection. Our friends celebrated with us without hidden agendas or expectations. No one from my biological family attended. My father sent a card with a modest check, which I appreciated but returned with a polite note explaining that we didn't need financial gifts. My mother and Sophia didn't acknowledge the event at all. 5 years after Sophia's disastrous first wedding, I received news through a former neighbor that my mother had suffered. My father, struggling with his own health issues, was finding it difficult to care for her. Sophia, now pregnant with her first child, was too busy to help much. The neighbor, well-meaning but unaware of our history, suggested I might want to come home and help out during this difficult time. I thanked her for letting me know and said I would handle it appropriately. After discussing it with Rachel, I researched home health care options in my parents' area and anonymously paid for 3 months of professional care, not because I owed them anything, but because it was the decent thing to do, something they had never taught me but I had learned anyway. I didn't visit. I didn't call. I didn't reopen the door to manipulation and guilt. I simply ensured they had proper care, then continued with my life. My father sent a brief email after discovering I had arranged the home care. Thank you. I understand why you stay away. It was the closest thing to genuine understanding I had ever received from him. Today, 7 years after the wedding that changed everything, I live in a comfortable home with Rachel and our 2-year-old son, named after her father. I run my own marketing consultancy, having left the corporate world 3 years ago. I volunteer at a mentoring program for college students from difficult family backgrounds. I have friends who know the real me, not the version my family created. My parents and Sophia continue to struggle financially and socially. According to occasional updates from distant relatives, they still blame me for their problems. They tell anyone who will listen that I abandoned them in their time of need, conveniently forgetting the decades of exploitation that preceded my departure. Sometimes I wonder if I should feel guilty for exposing them so publicly, for walking away so completely. But then I remember the coat check table at Sophia's wedding. I remember my stolen college fund. I remember the constant demands disguised as family obligation. And I remember what I've learned in therapy: I didn't destroy my family, I simply stopped allowing them to destroy me. The text message that started this story, my mother begging for money while Sophia vacationed in the Maldives, was the last communication I ever responded to from them. Since then, I've received dozens more: emergencies, guilt trips, occasional olive branches when they needed something. I've deleted them all without response, not out of malice, but out of self-preservation. Some doors are better left closed. My son will never know what it's like to be the forgotten child, the family ATM, the perpetual afterthought. He will grow up knowing he is valued for who he is, not what he can provide. He will understand that family means mutual respect and support, not one-sided sacrifice. That, more than anything, is my revenge, breaking the cycle of manipulation and creating something better from the ashes of what my family destroyed. I am Lucas Bennett, and I am finally free.